interrupted an important experiment in progress.
I am Chucky.
Pennywise the ants.
You won't get you, Barbara.
I want to play a game.
Hello everyone, Joshua Myers here, and welcome back to my 31 Days of Halloween Review series. And today I am going to be reviewing Creepshow from 1982.
Tales of horror that will give you the creeps.
This is going to be extremely painful, Mr. Verrill.
The most fun you'll ever have being scared. Creepshow, rated R.
Now playing at a theater near you.
Creepshow stars Adrienne Barbeau, Tom Atkins, Leslie Nielsen, Hal Holbrook, Stephen King, and is directed by George A. Romero. The plot of Creepshow is that this movie is actually a horror anthology movie that basically tells 4 different tales of terror, and there is a wraparound segment that basically closes off, starts and closes off this movie. How I'm going to do this is I'm going to talk about each individual segment and the wraparound, and there will be some spoilers. This is almost 40-year-old movie, so if you have not seen Creepshow, go check it out. Go watch Creepshow. I think it is on Shudder, so if you have Shudder, go watch it, or pick up the DVD, Blu-ray. Also, Scream Factory has a collector's edition Blu-ray. I am not sponsored by Shudder or Shaft Factory. Scream Factory, by the way, not sponsored by them, although that would be awesome if they sponsor me. But still, I recommend you do that before you go and watch this review, because again, there will be spoilers. This is a almost 40-plus movie, almost a 40-year-old movie. For those who haven't seen Creepshow, click off of it right now. Go and watch Creepshow wherever you can, whether on DVD, Blu-ray, or on Shudder, or just streaming service in general. I know you could rent it on Vudu or whatever. Just do whatever you can to go and watch it, and then come back to this video. Now, before I actually get into the review, I would actually like to discuss how this movie came to be. If you don't know, this movie was actually the brainchild of one of the most prolific people in horror, and that is George A. Romero, who directed the original Night of the Living Dead, and such other classics like that, like Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, all that different stuff. And also too, it was written by Stephen King, which of course, for those who aren't aware, Stephen King is a horror writer and has written so many classic stories like Children of the Corn, It, The Shining, just so many other different classic tales of terror, and they decided to join forces on this one and do a horror anthology movie that has a very comic book type style to it and has some lighter tones to it as well. They don't stay away from the dark stuff either. Again, how I'm going to handle this review is I'm going to talk about each individual segment. There's 4 segments, and then there's a wraparound segment. So I'm going to start off with the very first segment, and that is called Father's Day. That is the segment that starts off this movie, and it's about basically this rich family basically gathering around on Father's Day to to talk shit about one of their own family members, who was this cranky old man. And one of the characters, his daughter, on Father's Day one year, after he was like, "Where's my cake? Where's my cake, you fucking bitch?" Okay, that's a bit over exaggeration of the already exaggerated portrayal, but that's what it was like. And it showed that she killed her father on Father's Day, and she comes over to the house to, pay respects, but it's more so just to kind of trash her father and everything like that. She does that every year. And this one time, suddenly, the corpse of her father actually rises from the grave and actually attacks his daughter. And all he really wants at this point is his damn cake. And that's basically it. It's basically the father coming back to life and actually killing each of these family members one by one until he gets his cake. And it's a great segment, actually. There's a lot of, there's some comedy in there. I love the cinematography of this story. There's a lot of blues, a lot of reds, and again, this really shows you that it is really wanting to be like a comic book. There's comic book panels, stuff like that. At first, like when it goes into segments, starts off like a comic, and then transitions from, cartoony imagery to the live action segments of the same shot, and it's really awesome. It's like, honestly, if you want a film that like a comic book film that handles it like a comic book, then this is probably the best one. Anyway, and this segment is pretty good, actually. There's some pretty good scares. There's some pretty good, there's some funny moments in here too. The acting's pretty good. I would say it's just so funny. It was like with the zombie father being like,
Where's my cake? Where's my cake?
I have no idea what I was doing there, but seriously, that's what it's kind of like, and it is a great segment, one of my favorites. I'm not going to spoil it. Well, yeah, I guess I could spoil it for you, since I said there's going to be spoilers, so. And I love how the segment ends after he kills most of them. The only two that are left are this brother and sister, and they go off looking for everybody in that. They go in and they see I don't know if it's their mother or whatnot. I think it is their mother. I don't know. Her severed head, which the zombie father basically snaps her neck and actually tears it off. And it's actually on a platter, just to look like a cake. And he's like,
It's Father's Day, and I got my cake.
And then it just ends right there with them screaming and all that. And it goes into the comic book art style. And again, it's a fun segment. I really enjoy the segment Father's Day. It's a really great one, really memorable. Now let's go on to the next segment, which is called... Well, I forgot the segment name, but if I do remember it, I'll put it, before this, in the editing, I'll actually showcase the title cards of each of the different segments, so you'll know what it is. But the next segment is about this, kind of dumb country bumpkin redneck, played by none other than Stephen King himself, and the character's name is Jordy Verrill, I think it's his name, so basically in this segment, it's about him coming across a meteor that lands in his farmhouse, lands in his yard of the farmhouse and everything, and being the stupid idiot that he is, he thinks that, he sees that it's a meteor, and he's like, I wonder how much money I could get off of this. And then tries to pick it up, he tries to, cool it down, because it's really hot, because it came from the sky, of course, and the atmosphere, and because he poured water on it, it broke, and he's like, no, Jordan, you've done it this time, like that. And and soon he gets infected with something from the meteor, and the whole environment gets infected and starts growing plants. This is a plant infestation story, and eventually Stephen King gets engulfed, starts turning into a plant himself, and by the end of it, he can't take it anymore. He's all covered in leaves, and he kills himself. He basically puts an end to it, and it shows that the infestation is spreading around more than just his place. It's probably going to take over the world. And honestly, this is another fun segment. You wouldn't think Stephen King would be a good actor, but honestly, he's really good in this. He plays off this character really well, pretty funny. There's a bit of a tragedy there too, and yeah, Stephen King, if you're watching this, you did a great job with this role. And I just gotta say one thing, meteor shit. That's all I just gotta say left, is meteor shit. But yeah, this is a great segment, another memorable one from this movie. Now I'm gonna go into the third segment, and that is Something to Tide You Over. This segment stars Leslie Nielsen, And basically the plot is that Leslie Nielsen found out that his cable guy has been banging his wife, and he goes all sorts of villainy in here. Like, Leslie Nielsen's mostly known for comedy, but he is like, he plays it off so seriously in that, but there's some charm to it. But man, it can be downright intimidating sometimes. Like, honestly, he plays such a great bad guy, actually, surprisingly. Like, this is like he plays it off like he's a Bond villain or something like that. And it's really good. It's a really good performance from Leslie Nielsen. But basically, he finds out that his wife was cheating on his cable guy, and he's like, hey, I know you've been cheating on my wife, like my wife's been cheating on you, or vice versa. I'm pissed. He's basically taking the guy to his private beach and everything like that, and he forces him to basically get in a hole and covers himself up to where it's only just his head. It's just his head, and basically he's doing this so that it's like the tide, the water, like the tide from the ocean, comes up and basically suffocates him to death. And what makes it even more sadistic is that he brings out this TV for his victim to watch, and it basically shows his wife that the cable guy's been banging and that, and just she's in the same predicament as well, and it's just him having to watch it until he dies. And both of them do die, and that Leslie Nielsen comes back to his penthouse and pretty smug about it and everything like that. And it turns out both his ex-wife and the man that she was cheating with actually comes back to life as these kind of like, as almost these seaweed type zombies and that, and try to get Leslie Nielsen and everything. And it's like a good comeuppance for that. And it's like they actually get him to actually go into the sand, put him in a hole, and do the same thing. And he's like, I can hold my breath for a long time. And he just laughs hysterically. And that's where the story ends. And it's another great segment. I love this segment. Something to tide you over. Like, terrific segment. Honestly, you wouldn't think Leslie Nielsen would be able to play a serious, like, kind of almost bad guy, like villain role, and he plays it off really well. Honestly, he plays it off so well. I can honestly see him as a Bond villain. I don't know why he hasn't been in James Bond as a villain. I don't know, but he did a great job, and he's no stranger to horror either. He was in the movie Prom Night, which I did review, and he was the principal of the school, and he was the father of Jamie Lee Curtis's character in the movie. So I would say so far out of his horror roles, this is probably his best. So, and again, another great segment, really memorable. And now we're jumping on to the second to last segment, the crate. And basically what it is that it takes place at this university, and a janitor ends up finding a crate, calls up one of the bosses and that, and it turns, they kind of investigate the crate and everything. They had no idea where it came up from. Apparently, it came from the 1930s during an Arctic expedition, and they opened the crate to see what's inside, and it turns out there is this like flesh-eating monster, which I know they decided to call it Fluffy, and it's this really like awesome-looking monster design and everything like that. Which, let me talk about before I get any further into this segment about the special effects. The practical effects in here are done really well. If you don't know, the practical effects in this movie are done by Tom Savini, who is this horror makeup effects legend, and he's worked on films like some of the George A. Romero zombie movies, like Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. He's also worked on, he's worked on this. He's worked on so much stuff. I actually got to meet Tom Savini, and I don't have a picture with him or anything like that, but it was just one of those things where it's like, he saw me, we talked a little bit, and that was it, you know. So, but I did meet Tom Savini. He seems like a really nice guy, and yeah, again, Tom, if you're watching this, great job on the special effects here, and I love the design of Fluffy. In fact, I love the design on most of these creatures and effects, In fact, I know Trick or Treat Studios has some masks of Creepshow, like they have like the 2 seaweed zombies, they have Fluffy. I may have to try to get some of those to display in the horror room. This segment also stars Adrienne Barbeau as this kind of like, she's married to one of the supervisors of the university, and she is just this real nasty woman. And how this ties into it is that after learning about the crate monster and everything, Fluffy, he then ends up going in, luring Adrienne Barbeau into the area where the crate monster is, and basically basically feed her to this crate monster because he has had enough of her shit. And the segment ends with the 2 supervisors talking about the whole situation and being like, man, you know, we're fine, this is, you know, we'll just cover everything up. And they dump the crate monster into the bottom of the ocean, but it shows that the crate monster escaped and probably will go on a rampage somewhere. And that is the segment of the crate. And again, another great segment. I love this segment. The actors do a pretty good job. And yeah, I love the creature design of Fluffy. Again, I would love to get the Trick or Treat Studios Max display here. And yeah, it's just a fun segment too, in that. And so let's move on to the last segment, and that is They Crawl Up On You or something like that. This segment is about this rich millionaire business owner, very vindictive and everything like that, just a complete bastard. And he's ruined a lot of people's lives in that, but he's also a clean freak. He's like one of those OCD type clean freak people in that. And he lives in this kind of like, almost like, this almost like futuristic house and that. And it's basically a clean house. It's basically meant to be 100% clean. And he starts getting a cockroach infestation into his place. And he tries to kill off a lot of them, but they just keep on coming, to the point where the house is infested and everything. And basically by the end of the segment, our main character of the story basically gets engulfed by these cockroaches, dies, and that's the end of the segment. This segment is still a fun segment. It's definitely more for gross factor because of the cockroaches, so if you're squeamish to bugs and stuff like that, probably best to skip the segment or just not watch the movie if you're freaked out at bugs at all, especially cockroaches. But again, this is a still fun segment. I forgot to mention too, there is a wraparound segment that opens up the film and ends the film. Basically the film starts off with this opening wraparound segment starring Tom Atkins as this kind of asshole father, and that sees that his son actually has been reading these horror comics, which turns out to be comics of Creepshow and everything like that. And it's basically all these different stories that you end up seeing in the film and everything. He basically lashes out at his son for reading this filth, and then takes to the comic, throws it away, and that's how the opening starts. And fun fact too, the kid who plays his son is actually Stephen King's son, Joe King, who now has become a writer himself. I have yet to check out any of his work, so that's kind of cool. And then the segment ends like right at the end of the film. It cuts back to this segment as well, and this is what caps off the film. And turns out that the kid, the son, ends up ordering a voodoo doll from the comic, and makes it into a voodoo doll of his own father, starts jabbing him with needles and that, to the point where he ends up killing his own father. So, and that is the end of Creepshow. And again, that's another fun segment. Tom Atkins does really well. Joe King does really well too. And yeah, it's overall. So now I'm going to discuss which, basically rank my favorite my segments from my least favorite to my favorite. So let's get on with it. So my least favorite segment would have to be their creeping up on you, which is the bug segment. It's the last segment. While it's still a fun segment, it is, it's just not my thing. I'm not grossed out by bugs. I get freaked out by them, but I'm not grossed out by them, you know? I could watch a film with bugs, you know, it doesn't bother me, so it's compared to the other ones, it's my least favorite segment. My next least favorite segment would have to be, that is a tough one, because all the rest of them are really great segments. But I would have to say it would have to be the wraparound segment. So the one thing that opens the film and closes it out, because there's not much of it, you know. But again, it's still a fun bit of the movie and has some good acting from Tom Atkins and Joe King. So that's not a knock at that segment. And then my third favorite segment would have to be, I would say it would have to be To Tide You Over. Again, not a bad segment. In fact, it is my third favorite segment. That's pretty good. I love the story. Leslie Nielsen plays an intimidating villain, and he does a really great job. And I like some of the creature designs of like this, you know, like of the seaweed zombies, and they're really good. And I like how the segment ends, and it's just a fun segment. But there's two more segments that I love more. My second favorite segment would probably have to be The Crate. Again, great segment. I love this segment. That's why it's my second favorite. I was so torn between The Crate and my number one, but, you know, I would say still a fun segment. The acting's really good. Adrienne Barbeau plays a bitch of a character, and she does it really well. And I like the creature effects. I like Fluffy. I love Fluffy. I would love to get the Trick or Treat Studios max of Fluffy. I would probably display him, I don't know, I might get more floating shells like that and get more max, so you'll probably end up seeing Fluffy in my horror room at some point. But again, I love this segment. It is my second favorite segment. Now on to my number one, and that is Father's Day. Yes, the very first segment of this movie, like that really kicks off the film, and it's a great segment. And this is where they really play more so into the comic book style. I love the lighting, the cinematography in general. I love the humor of it, but also I love the creature effects. I love the effect of the zombie father, and I just it's just such a great segment. All the actors do pretty well too, and I love the payoff at the end. And yeah, and also too, just in general, I love every single segment in this movie. It's just that, again, there's some I love more than others. So also too, I would like to discuss about the music. The music is really good. I don't know who composed it. I'll put his or her name right here of who composed it. But the music's really good. I would love to have the soundtrack of Creepshow, whether on vinyl or CD. So one of these days I will get that soundtrack. So, and I love the movie so much. I even have the poster to Creepshow over there. I showed you guys that in my horror poster collection update video that I just dropped. So yeah, now let's move on to my rating. So with that said, I'm going to give Creepshow a 5 out of 5 stars. Again, I love this movie. I do have some nitpicks here and there, but they're just minor nitpicks. This is a fun horror anthology movie. One of my favorites. It's actually tied for another one, which I'm going to review this for my 31 Days of Halloween review series as well for this month. So tell me in the comments below, what do you guys think of Creepshow if you have seen it? Do you love the movie? Do you hate it? I honestly be curious to see if anybody hates this movie. And if so, why do you hate this movie? You know, I love Creepshow, and from just basically just the standard, like basically the basic reception of this film, especially by horror fans, is that this is an awesome, fun movie, and it is. And again, George Romero, Stephen King, Tom Savini, all the actors involved, you did a great job creating this classic 80s horror movie. And now, like, it spawned sequels. There's Creepshow 2. There's an unofficial Creepshow 3, which I haven't seen, but I heard it's pretty bad. There's the Creepshow TV show that Shudder released, and even that has spawned spin-offs, even a couple animated spin-offs. I've only seen the first episode of the show, and I've seen the second movie, Creepshow 2, which I will be reviewing some point down the line. But anyway, this is an awesome movie. And again, kudos to George Romero and Stephen King for brainstorming this movie. Thank you guys for watching, and if you're new to my channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If any of you like this video, be sure to click the like button. Both will really help out my channel. And thank you guys for watching, and see you next time.